Okay, here we go. Welcome. All right, so why good theater photography matters.
Let me put this.
And like I said, a landscape photographer, a wedding photographer may be great at what they do, but that does not mean that they are a theater photographer. That drives me a little crazy, when Santa Cruz Shakespeare decides to hire a landscape photographer to do their photography. It's like, okay, great. That doesn't necessarily mean he understands how to look at theater and how to actually capture. So, one of those points is about really looking at theater as, or theater photography almost as choreography with the camera, because you want to be tracking those actors, you want to be understanding how a production works in order to photograph it correctly. And one of the reasons it's so important is because, a good production photograph or a publicity photograph is really going to be almost the first thing that the public sees of a show. And you want to bring that audience in, you want to drive audience into the show and entice them with really beautiful imagery. And what a theater company puts out in the world really speaks volumes about their professionalism. And we're going to talk more about that as we go on today. So you guys know who I am, so we can skip through that unless you have any questions.
Okay.
um, all right, so I'm going to start here at the beginning with tech talk. Okay, let's talk about cameras. Um, Not all cameras are the same. SLR stands for a single lens reflex camera. That's what people used to use back in the day when we shot film. Now, most people use digital SLRs. And now the big thing is mirrorless. A lot of people are using mirrorless cameras. And then there's point and shoots and there's phones. Now, the most important thing about theater photography is that you want to be able to put your camera on manual. And
Mm.
so, uh, Gail, what kind of camera do you have?
So I have two. I have a Canon EOS M50 Mark II,
Okay.
and then I also have a Samsung oh God, hang on.
No, that's okay. Are you
Anyway, I have a
able
Samsung too that's a digital
are you
mirrorless.
able to put them on manual?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. So you can shoot in manual mode.
Yes.
Davis, I assume you shoot in manual mode as well, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right. So then we don't have to worry about cameras. So let's talk. So this is really for Gail and Davis. If you want to pipe in and share anything as well, please feel free. Um, there are three elements to taking a picture. The exposure consists of your aperture, which is also an f-stop, your shutter speed, and your ISO, which is the speed of which you are taking light onto the sensor. Now, in the old days, they used to call it ASA. Now it's called ISO, for International Standards Organization. There's actually an organization that figures that stuff out. Anyway,
Huh.
so these elements are what make up an exposure: your f-stop, your shutter speed, and your ISO. Now, we're going to look at each one of those. And Gail, if you already know this,
No, you're just taking me on through.
okay.
This is good.
So your aperture is the aperture of the lens, okay? And it controls how much light actually enters your camera. So when your lens is wide open, like over here, f2.8, you're letting all the light in at once. Boom. But as you stop down the diaphragm of your lens all the way to the end, say on some lenses it's f22, the diaphragm is very small, so you're letting a very small amount of light in. It's taking longer to get onto the sensor. So now, why is this important? It's important because mostly depth of field. When your lens is wide open, you're going to get a very soft, shallow depth of field, meaning that what you focus on will be in focus and the background may blur out. And sometimes that's beautiful. When your f-stop is closed down all the way, or as it starts to around f8 and on, you're going to get a much more sharp depth of field. In other words, everything's going to be in focus on the camera. That's the basics of f-stops on your lens. Here is a visual example. Okay, so like with, and disregard these little numbers on the top, but when your f-stop is wide open, you see here in the first image what your flowers, the flowers were the focus. That's going to be in focus and your background's going to blur. This is again depth of field. And as we stop down that aperture, then everything comes into focus. So it really controls that. And again, it's because of the amount of light that's entering the lens. Now, our shutter speed, our second component to making an exposure, is controlling the duration of your exposure. In other words, how fast it's capturing the action. Okay. So when you are shooting at a high shutter speed, say 1/60th of a second or 2/50 of a second, you're stopping the action. Like you can see with the little wind barrel blower thing here. It's freezing the action. But the longer your shutter speed is, or like 1 second, a quarter of a second, it's capturing the motion blur. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you. I mean, I'm loving it. So just keep on going.
Okay.
It's great.
So if you want to freeze the action, you have
Mhm.
to be up at a high shutter speed, 250, 500. Like sports, they're outdoors during the day or, not always during the day, but you can shoot at a high shutter speed. With the theater, it's dark. So we have to play this seesaw of how do I get my aperture right and how do I get my shutter speed right so that it's working for low light, but I'm capturing the action. And this is especially important during a fight scene in a show or, of course, a musical where there's dance numbers. You don't want anything below 60 ever, 1/60th of a second, because it's going to start to blur. And with a dance number, a fight scene, you don't want it, right? Of course not. So you always want your shutter for theater to be at least at 1/25th of a second so that you can stop the action. You could go higher, but then, you probably don't have enough light. So again, it's a seesaw, and we're going to talk more about that. So this is what your shutter does. Your aperture is controlling the depth of field. Your shutter is controlling the action, stopping the action. And our last one is the ISO. That's the speed that the light is hitting the sensor of the camera. And so with low light, like at the very bottom of our chart here, you're going to be wanting to set your ISO high because you're going to be in a low light situation. When you're shooting during the day, or like when I'm shooting in the studio, I have my ISO set very low, 100, 200 for daylight. And you can see, depending on your situations, as it gets darker and darker, the ISO speed is going to get higher and higher. Now, the problem with this is that the higher your ISO is, you're going to get noise, which is what used to be called grain on film. It's going to get very noisy. Most cameras have a setting where you can set it to know it's going to be shooting a high ISO and it'll help reduce the noise. There's probably a setting on your camera. We can talk more about that later, Gail. I can help you figure out where that is. But again, that's the seesaw. We're trying to balance these three elements to get the correct exposure. So here's an example of a picture that was shot with the exact same shutter, the exact same f-stop, but the ISO was different, okay? So here the ISO was shot at 100. It's dark. But as our ISO pushes up, it's letting more light onto the sensor for the exact same exposure until, at 800, it's probably too bright for that sunset because you're losing some of the beautiful detail, in the clouds up here in the sunset. But this shows you an example of what happens when you push that ISO up. You're letting more light in. Your f-stops and shutter have not changed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So again, these three elements always work in tandem to make your exposure. Each one of them can be manipulated, but each one of them have their drawbacks. Again, the f-stop, depth of field, the shutter is the motion, and the ISO is how much light you're actually letting into the camera combined. And of course, the drawbacks are you may not want depth of field, or you may want it. You may want to stop the action. You may want to be experimental and actually have a motion blur. So again, there's just trade-offs. And once you start shooting, you're gonna figure out which ones work for you. Okay, so let's talk about lenses and focal lengths, where the question really is to compress or not to compress. Now, when we're shooting, the focal length of your lens is going to be different depending on what you're trying to achieve. And this chart here just kind of shows you what happens when you're shooting with a really wide angle lens, like a 16 millimeter. People's faces get completely distorted in wide angle, okay? But you're able to capture a whole lot of background behind them. As we move up the scale here, people's faces become proportionate. This is around 85. This is what we use as a portrait lens. So the face has the best proportions. But what's starting to happen with the background is it's starting to compress. And this example shows that it's blurring, but you can capture it without it blurring. But it's compressing the background so that it's a different sort of view.
And it also looks like from the 35 millimeter one to the 85, it looks like it's um, like you said, like it's compressing all the background kind of thing too.
Correct,
That
exactly.
stuff is missing. Okay.
Now, when we're shooting theater, you want both because a wide angle lens is going to allow you to capture the whole stage. It's going to allow you to capture group scenes, bows, uh, large cast numbers. I was going to use a musical theater term, but I changed my mind. And you're also going to want to do close-up shots, which means in order for their faces to be proportionate, you need to be at zooming in at an 85 or a 105 or something like that. So when I shoot, I always carry two cameras. On one of my cameras, I have the wide zoom, which is usually a 24 to a 70, so I can get the whole stage. And on my other camera, I usually have a telephoto, which is going from 70 to 200, so that I can capture closer up scenes. And I switch back and forth. Now, if you only have one camera, that's okay. I would suggest using a zoom that goes from wide to closer up.
Okay.
Okay, here comes the big one. Understanding color temperature. This is a big one.
Yeah.
Say hello to Kelvin. Did I miss? Oh, I missed some. Say hi to Kelvin. Okay. Lighting is called kelvins. They're measured in Kelvin degrees. Okay. And you can see here on the scale, daylight is about 5,600 kelvins. Noonday sun right here, sitting about 5,600 Kelvin degrees. A full blue sky at noon is going to be 10,000. Candlelight is very low. It's 1,000. And it goes from being very warm to being very blue. This is the Kelvin scale. Okay. Now, which Kelvin do we use when we're shooting stage light? Lighting has changed. It used to be in the old days that all the lighting was tungsten. Okay. So that meant that they were giving off a very warm orangey glow. But today, everybody's using these LED lights, which they give off a pinkish glow, almost into the home of a fluorescent light. Now, a fluorescent light gives off kind of like a greenish hue. These are all important things to know because A, you can adjust your camera to shoot correctly when you're shooting, or you can fix it in post production. Um, yeah, what I have found for me is that with today's LED lights, it's usually around 4,600 to 4,900 kelvins that actually captures that light correctly. But
So
we're,
what was that again? 4,600 to,
yeah, so 46 to 4,900 is around the right white balance. Now, this is where your white balance is on your camera. And this is a big difference from the days that we used to shoot on film, because white balance on digital cameras is actually seeing light differently than film sees light. So film
Mhm.
would see light based on 50% gray. And you
Okay.
could hold up a gray card and know you were getting a good exposure. On digital cameras today, they're basing their white balance on pure white. And
Hmm.
so a lot of times light designers will be like, oh my God, my lights don't look like that. And I'm like, I know the digital camera can't see it. It just can't see it the way film did. Um, anyway, regardless. Um, so yeah, so today LED lights, everything has a pinkish look to it, and we're going to look at some examples here. So here's a shot from Rent at Cabrillo Stage. Okay, now the picture on the left, this was when Cabrillo still was using some tungsten lights. I
Mhm.
shot it at 3,200 white balance, which is on our Kelvin scale, 3,200 is the Kelvin number for tungsten. Now, when I shot it with the correct exposure, you can see how warm it is. He's very warm. On the right, I corrected it in post. Oh no, I'm sorry. This one I shot at 5,600 white balance. So what that did by pushing the white balance, it made it cooler.
Mhm.
Okay. Now we might like the warmer tone over here. We might think that looks a little more appealing for skin tones, but look at the detail in his face. You can actually see more detail when it's cooler.
Yeah.
All right, that's one example. Here's a whole bunch of pictures from Rent. Okay, so again, these were tungsten lights that I shot at a daylight white balance. And that was to capture more of a bluish tone, less of that orange. And to help you kind of understand this, here's a color wheel. Okay, so when a show, not a show, when a light, like a tungsten light, is very red, yellow, you want to counter that by being more blue or cyan. So these are the opposite colors on the color wheel. A lot of times we'll see, maybe a production photo that's very magenta, very red, very pink. These LED lights are going to make things very pink. So you're going to counter that with the opposite color on the color wheel, which is green. Now, again, you can do it in camera by changing your white balance, or you can do it in post production.
Mm.
Yes, my dear.
My brain is processing. So when you say if it's magenta and then you're gonna change it in camera, so if you're is does that mean like you would normally have it at 5,600 white balance and it's too magenta and you want to make it greener, so that's you would change it to something else then?
No, we're going to go back.
Okay, go back.
We're going to go back. So, so the picture on the left was a tungsten light. The theater light was
Mhm.
tungsten. So the tungsten light is down here on the scale. It's very yellow,
Right, okay.
very warm.
Right.
Okay. So when I shot it in camera, correct for the lights were 3,200 kelvins, and I shot it at 3,200 white balance. This was the result. It matches, but it's very warm.
Hmm.
Always like the pictures to look very warm. It's a personal choice. Um, so what I did was the exact same image, but I shot it this time in camera I turned my white balance up to 5600 to be more daylight. And
Okay.
so, again, if we look at the scale, if we add, if we go up the scale, things are getting bluer. So,
Yeah.
by me going up the scale to 5600, I cool down the image.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and again, to me, I see more detail in his face when it's cooler. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that. It just feels like there's more detail there.
It
Because
just looks a little sharper.
what happens sometimes is when the lights are orange or yellow and we're matching that and everything's warm, it starts to get a little muddy. It starts to get a little muddy. But, and again, that's a personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, go back. So here, all of these were shot at 56 white balance in camera.
Okay.
So I knew they were tungsten lights. I knew they were warm down here in the 3200 range, but I made a choice to shoot it higher up in the blue range
Okay.
to get the skin tones to look more realistic. And again, that's just based on the color wheel. We're going to go back to the color wheel when we talk about post production. But basically, if you know color theory, you want the opposite color to fix something. So if we're shooting under LED lights and they're very pink, you want to counter it by adding green. But don't, you know what? Don't let that confuse you, right?
No, I mean, that was helpful. That was really helpful. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's look at another example. So
Okay.
here's Into the Woods at Cabrillo Stage. Now by the time they were doing Into the Woods, there was a combination of tungsten and LED lights. So now we had a mixture of
Mm.
two different lights. Okay, the tungsten lights were giving off a warm glow. The LED lights were giving off a pinkish glow. I shot it at 4900. SOOC stands for straight out of camera. This is exactly what the image looked like, straight out of camera. Shot at 4900. So I'm in between the warm and the cool. I'm trying to shoot for that LED light. It looks okay, right? Okay, it looks okay.
Yeah.
Here,
Oh.
I corrected it to 5600 degrees in post production. It looks much bluer now, but it looks a little more realistic. If we look at them side by side, you can really see the difference. So this one's very warm.
Mm-hmm.
This one's cooled a bit. And
Yeah.
you really notice it on the rock here. Like the rock really looks pink. Here it looks a little more cool. And in the skin tones, especially if you look at the witch in the red here, you can really see her skin tone looks much more realistic.
And the baker too. Like you can notice it in the baker, I think too.
And the baker, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, Davis, you may or may not agree with me. I think it's a personal choice how much you want to change that color. Because here's what I will always say. You don't want to change what the light designer's intent was.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing. But like you can also like look at say the moon, and my assumption is like they're trying to rep. Generally, I would think the moon would look more like the moon, which is what you've done in the color corrected version. Whereas it looks to me, I agree, a little too warm, but
Mhm.
I agree that is a thing, which means yeah, you gotta remember kind of what you saw when you were there too. Uh,
Exactly,
which
exactly. And
sometimes is funny because you're looking through the lens and through the camera the whole time, but you also kind of have to keep referencing with your own eye, I guess, to try to retain what
I
that
think,
lighting seemed like.
yeah,
Really,
I think it really comes up with scenes that have very colored lights, especially scenes that are very red or very blue, because they get muddy. They get super muddy on digital, and especially on film, but nobody shoots film anymore. But they get very muddy, and so you want to correct it so that you can see the actors. But the truth is, that was what the designer wanted. So yeah, it's a tricky trade-off. Okay, so just so that you know, this is what these LED lights look like. And when you see them up on the ceiling or the
Mhm.
wall,
Oh,
they're those octagon lights. That's what those LED lights look like. And again, this was a show. What show was this? This was Beehive. That's Lindsay Chester. She's very green, but that was what the lighting looked like. And I shot it at 4700 white balance to match those LED lights. And this is what it looked like on the stage. So again, it was like, all right, this is what the designer wanted. They wanted them to look very green and very pink. And I think it's ugly, but that's again my personal opinion. But mostly I wanted you guys just to see, so you can recognize that that's what the LED lights look like, whereas the tungsten lights look like old glass Fresnels. All right, here's some more examples, and some examples that don't really work. So here on the left is a shot from Santa Cruz Shakespeare that was shot under LED lights at a 5600 white balance, which is for daylight. You can see what happens when you shoot daylight white balance under these LED lights. Pink, pink, pink. It's crazy pink. So
whoa, it is. I mean, I'm loving this because I'm seeing it in such a different way now too. Thank you. Okay.
So then in post, to counter that magenta, I added green and cyan to correct it. But now look at it. They look a little too pale. It went a little too green. It looks a little more realistic, but it's a little too green. So the answer is it's probably somewhere in between. Here, same thing. LED lights shot at 5600 white balance on the left. It's looking a little muddy. There's a lot of people in this scene, and all those warm tones are starting to look a little muddy. But in correction, and again, it may be a little too green in correction. But what happens is, look how there starts to become a differentiation between the characters. They don't look so muddy anymore. I feel like I can really see his face. Whereas over here, all those skin tones, everything was getting super warm and kind of mushy. So I probably went a little too green here on the right, but I can pull it back in post, but I feel like there's a differentiation in the characters there. Another reason to correct it.
So question. So when you say in post that you're adding the cyan and green, are those just filters that you're adding at a certain level to bring this about? And
yeah,
so
that's in, I'm doing it in Lightroom or Photoshop, which we're going to get to, which we're going to talk about.
Okay,
when we get to post. Yeah, so it's either shooting it in camera or fixing it in post. Now here, same show, LED lights again, but this time I shot it at 4900 white balance, and it worked. The skin tones look real. But again, this is always about where you're shooting too, because at Shakespeare, there's half of the show is in daylight. Even though they have those tungsten lights on them or the LED lights on them, there's all this daylight around you. So you're dealing with all these different temperatures. You've got 6,000 up in the sky.
Yeah.
You've got the 3,200, 4,800 of the lights, And so a lot of times you really do have to fix this stuff in post. But this one actually worked. And I think it was because there was some daylight mixing in with the LEDs. All right, so let's talk about actually exposing something for the stage. I don't need to tell you guys this, but don't ever use a flash. It'll never, ever give you what you want. So the biggest question is my meter working? Okay. Do not believe your camera meter, ever, 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 when you are shooting theater. Because, and I will tell you why, your camera meter is doing an overall look at the scene, okay?
Okay.
And it's seeing a whole lot of darkness. It's like when you try to shoot the moon. It cannot register what your eye is seeing. It's just seeing all this blackness and then a few bright highlights. So you never trust your camera meter. You learn what your exposures will be, uh, and you test them out because there are highlights, midtones, lowlights. There's shadows. There's all kinds of stuff happening, right? And so the camera meter just can't read it all. I always suggest shoot for the highlights because you can always bring up the shadows, but you cannot always bring down the highlights. If something is overexposed in camera, it is just overexposed. You cannot save it, no matter how much you try. It's just, there's no information there. It's just gone. It's just white. So shoot for the highlights, let the shadows fall is always the Jana rule. Okay, so mixed lighting exposure. This shot, again, shadows, midtones, highlights. I shot this at ISO 3200. I'm sorry, yeah. I guess I shot this at, that's what I wrote. That must have been what I shot it at. I had my shutter speed at 125 because I wanted to, didn't want any blur. My f-stops usually range from 2, which is wide open, to 6.3. Never really go much higher than that if I want a little depth of field. So my tip, choose the right ISO for the light setting. And then set your auto ISO ranging from, oh, I'm sorry, I wrote that wrong. I wrote that wrong. No, I didn't. Okay, sorry. Did I have enough coffee this morning? I'm not really. I did write that right. Okay. So your camera will have an auto ISO setting where it'll say, you can set it to say, I have it on my Nikon. You must have it in your cameras. Or you can set it to say, I want the minimum amount of ISO to be 1,000, and I want the highest to be X. And then all you have to worry about is your shutters and your f-stops, and the camera will make a choice for you on the ISO within the range that you give it. Now, I think it's important to give it a range because I have found, even with the greatest new techie mirrorless camera, that I don't want to shoot anything over 6400. It's just too noisy. It has too much noise grain. You might reach out to 8,000 ISO, but this is usually a good range. And I usually wind up shooting at around 3,200. But I let the camera make that choice. A faster ISO means that you can shoot at a higher shutter speed, but I don't know that you need a higher shutter speed than 125 or 250 at the most, depending on how much action there is. If it's a musical, you may want to catch that action. But be sure to hit high noise reduction on your camera so that if it's shooting at a high ISO, it knows that and it's going to try to control the noise for you. My Nikon doesn't do the best job at that, but other cameras may do it better. So when you have a super dark scene like this one, if you've put your camera on auto ISO, it will push it to the highest number that you've allowed it to go to. And again, this one was shot at 6400. It was very blue and very dark. I did want sort of a shallowy depth of field, like you can see the candles are starting to kind of blur out because you want the focus to stay on the actors or the action or what's happening there. So I shot this at, I guess I shot this at 2. Shutter at 125. No, I never shoot lower than that. And that ISO went all the way to 6400. So again, that's juggling those 3 components: your shutter, your f-stop, and your ISO. Now, when a scene is really bright, it doesn't need to push the ISO that far. You can stop down your f-stop. And that's really my suggestion. If you're shooting between dark scenes and bright scenes, my suggestion always is to make the change with your f-stop. Don't change your shutter. You don't want to change your shutter. You want to keep it where your action is stopped. Your ISO, If you're able to put it on auto compensation, that's great. Then you can just deal with your f-stops, opening them up for a darker scene, stopping them down for a brighter scene. That's just how I work. Davis, you might work a little different. And again, as I said before, try to remember to honor the mood and the effect that the lighting designer intended. Because, a more novice photographer might look at this shot and go, oh my God, it's so dark. I need to open it up. But the truth is, the designer wanted it this way. He wanted her to be in shadow with just a light coming down, the trees lit up behind her. Again, this is up at Shakespeare. So try to find a balance of honoring how they wanted it to look, but still being clear enough to be, a good image. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and yeah, because I think of the designer is creating this illusion for a live audience, not necessarily for a camera per se, right? So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
It's true. It's true.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. It's true. And our camera is not going to see the light exactly the way they have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about playing with depth of field. This shot, general settings. Oh, that's the same thing I already told you. Lenses, wide angle versus close up. This shot, he's not in focus.
Right.
But do we need him in focus? That's the question. When do we make that choice? When do we decide we want to focus on the person who's speaking or the person who's the star of the show versus what's all the stuff that's happening in the background? And sometimes it gives it a really nice cinematic feel if you blur out the background a little bit. We can still see him. We can still see he looks surprised, but he's not the main point of the picture. Again, these are aesthetic choices.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, playing with depth of field. We're going to talk about that. All right, so let's talk about, do we have any questions before I move on?
No, I have one thing I might want to mention for but and maybe you're going to talk about it later. Maura is a tip about shutter speed with LED as well, which is about avoiding flicker. Do you know about? So it's like this is another reason to not shoot above 250 or so for even if you're trying to capture fast action. You can get in certain types of situations with LED lights, you can get kind of a banding effect because LEDs, the way they pulse like through the light, I've done as I've learned.
You know that as a video person,
as I know that as a video person, yeah. And I've had it also show up in a few photos at times and had to adjust. Like,
that's interesting.
The banding can go across, so you have to watch out for it.
That's interesting. No, I actually haven't experienced that because I never shoot above 160. Really is the highest I will have my shutter go.
Yeah, then that shouldn't be a problem. So that's a thing also for Gail. Yeah, just to another reason for that.
You know who might have run into problems with that is people who are dance photographers.
Yeah.
Dance is really different than shooting theater. I mean, you got to be shooting so fast and capturing that action so fast. I'm horrible at it. Like once I went to go shoot the ballet, I was like, oh my God, I am so bad at this. It's so different than shooting theater. But I bet, if there was like a ballet under LED lights, I bet you
that
would
might be a thing.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, good. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's talk about capturing the drama. How do you know that you've caught the dramatic moment in a show? How do you know you've gotten the best shot of that production you can get? And I tell everybody, try to see a rehearsal first. That is absolutely essential for a couple reasons. A, you'll learn the entrances, the exits, the dramatic moments. You'll understand the show. So when you go in to shoot it, you know what moments you want to capture. You're going to know the entrances and exits. Especially with a musical, you're going to know what that big opening number is. You're going to know what side of the stage you want to be on. It's essential. The other reason to really try to see a rehearsal is because you can test your exposure ahead of time. You can see what that lighting's going to do, and you can go, okay, I know in scene 4, it's going to go really dark. And so you could just, it helps you anticipate what's going to happen. Now, a lot of times you cannot see a show ahead of time. Every time I shot Shakespeare, you go and you got one chance, that's it, and then you're out of there. So, it just depends on who you're shooting for. At Actors Theater, you can go in and see a rehearsal before an actual shoot. At Cabrillo Stage, you can do that. At Cabrillo College, probably at Mountain Community. Shakespeare, no. So that just depends. Now, if you're shooting an iconic show and you're trying to sum it up in one image, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going to be an iconic moment to capture on film. If it's a show you don't know or it's an unknown show, no, let me take that back. Not a show that you don't know. If it's a show that no one's heard of, it's a premiere or, something more esoteric, then you have to find the moment that's really going to capture what that show is all about. And I have always found this to be the greatest challenge. How do you sum up a show in one picture? Because that's what they're going to use for all of their PR, for the reviews, for the editorials, hanging in the lobby, whatever it is, all over social. They want that one, most companies want that one iconic image that will really sum up a show. My suggestion, and Gail, I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about this, is watch the actors. Okay. Now, when does an actor breathe? When do they pause? Really start to recognize what the actor's beats are. Okay. And the more you shoot local theater and you see the same actors again and again, you'll start to recognize them. But here's what's interesting. Really seasoned actors, they know that silence is power. And they will take that moment to command the stage and hold the silence. And that's when you're ripping through your pictures, okay? Not when their mouth is open when they're talking. I hate pictures where people are singing and every photographer captures them with their mouth open, right? Sometimes it's powerful, but sometimes it's not. But a seasoned actor knows when to pause after something dramatic or something funny, and that's usually when you get the shot. Now, more inexperienced actors or novice actors will close their eyes when they talk. They'll speed through their lines really fast, and then when they're not talking, they break their character. The worst show I ever photographed, stays in here, was Grease at Cabrillo Stage. They were all these young, horrible novice actors, and not one of them knew how to hold the stage. They talked, I had so many pictures with people's eyes closed. It was unbelievable, it was the worst. Now, if I go into Cabrillo and I shoot a student production, okay, they're going to be young and inexperienced, and that's okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but recognize that. Like, okay, this person's going to close their eyes when they talk, so I have to wait.
Mm-hmm. And you're good at waiting.
I'm a tracker. That's what I do.
You definitely are a tracker.
And that is what I do. I hold up the camera, literally, and I track an entire scene, and I wait. I just wait. Yeah. And it's really important to track if you haven't seen a rehearsal ahead of time. Just hold up that camera and just track it like you're wearing binoculars, and wait for that moment to get the action, or, oh, here her mouth is open, even though I said no open mouths. The truth is, you're always going to get them with their mouth. You're always going to get them with their mouth open. Just always, that just happens. But yeah, you want that dramatic moment. You want, the actor with all the great expression happening there. So my tip is track. When you're shooting, also think about groups of people. In photography, there's the famous thing about finding triangles in your images. You always want geometric shapes to kind of, and this is because of the way the eye naturally gravitates around an image. We tend to look left to right. We tend to look at the brightest spot first because it comes forward, darkness recedes. So when you're shooting, think about how you're grouping the actors together. Down here, this Shakespeare shot, this is a nice, perfect, upside down triangle. You've got the main actors here in bright light, but you can still see the other actors in the back. It's just grouping them, or even here, just groups of people. How are we grouping them? These are things to just think about while you're shooting. And I know you're probably thinking, oh my God, I have so much to think about as it is. But I think we've dialed in your exposure. So all you have to do is change those f-stops. Now you can actually start to look. Look at the actors. Are they closing their eyes? Are they holding the power on the stage? How are we getting the groupings to make it an interesting photograph? Sometimes a show is not very interesting, but we can make it interesting with the photograph, depending on where we're standing. And that leads me to do not shoot everything from center stage, okay? Your most interesting shots can be from different angles. Close up, far away, side of the stage. These will make your pictures unique. And for a show that might be really boring, it'll make it more interesting. Now, here's a really good example of one of the 810s.
I remember
On the
this.
left, I shot it center stage. On the right, I shot it from the side. Now, you tell me which one's a more interesting shot and why. Tell me.
Well, definitely the one on the right. I'm sorry. Okay, Davis, do you want to go?
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, I was going to say the one on the right because you get to see both of their faces and her awe, whereas the one where you're capturing it from center stage, center point, you don't see the same level of engagement of the young girl with the adult male to me. So it just seems more interesting to me for sure.
When an actor has their face turned to the side, move with them so that you see her face. And also, they look much more engaged from the side, like they're closer together. All this negative space, we hate negative space. In theater, you want to kind of find a way to bring them together. So because the eye gets lost, our eye gets lost right here, and whereas here our eye is going in a circle.
Yeah.
The way we look at it. So don't be afraid to move around. Really, yeah. Oh, I can't even see my next point because my Zoom thing is in front of me. There we go. Different angles make a scene more impactful. Oh. All right. Let me go back over here. Okay. All right. Davis, this or that? Tell me what.
I like the one on the right because I guess there's some mystery about what they're looking at, and I'm engaged with their reaction. I can see that the one on the left has more of the background and you can see a little more costume, but I think there's more tension in the one on the right. There's a story moment there.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. The one on the left, yeah, we can see them. We can see their costumes. Oh, we can see the orchestra. We can see the back. It's a mess. There's too much to look at.
Yeah.
It's too busy.
Yeah.
It's too busy. And what is it really telling us? Nothing. Oh, we know it's the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
On the right, we can see each one of them. We can see their expressions. It's mysterious. It's also a cleaner image because it was shot without all that crap behind them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more enticing. More enticing. So these are the things to think about when you're shooting. What angle am I at? Center, side, back. And again, depth of field, same show, same depth of field. But this, again, it can isolate an actor if like she's not being very dramatic at the moment. But let's say she was screaming or she, was having some breakdown on stage, she would be the center of attention. And it gives it a really nice cinematic effect if you choose to play with your depth of field. This also would be good if it was all in focus too. I think either one. Now, I'm going to tell you, after playing with all your angles, don't be afraid to take an experimental shot, because an experimental shot may actually end up being one of your favorite pictures. Here I was shooting The Wizard of Oz, and Skip had made this beautiful kind of light thing over the stage that was the rainbow. And it's like, okay, this is an okay shot. Dorothy sort of turned away from us, but I turned to the side and as the witch came in and I decided to shoot through the lights. And unfortunately, there's not a huge amount of action happening right there, but I wanted to show you as an example that sometimes just be experimental and see. I thought, oh, let me see what it looks like if I shoot through the lights. And they came out all nice and bokeh and look kind of cool. So, take that experimental shot. Like with Little Shop of Horrors, I thought, oh, let me get the urchins through the window, and it's kind of fun. It's not the traditional picture that might end up in the paper, but it's another angle of seeing the show that just might be kind of interesting. You never know. This is one of my favorite shots, and it was a complete mistake. Jesus Christ Superstar getting, attacked by the mob. And for some reason, my camera did a double exposure. I don't even know what I hit. I don't know what happened, but it turned out to be one of my most favorite pictures because it totally represented what was happening in that scene. And all that movement that did not get stopped. I don't know what happened in this picture. Well, I guess I slipped my finger. I used to have a Nikon where the dials literally moved with me barely brushing past them. So I think it just got all screwed up. But sometimes a mistake works, And so again, this is just, don't be afraid to try different things. Get the shot the company wants, but then have some fun. You never know what you might get. Questions? Thoughts?
A lot of thoughts, not enough words to.
All right, so let's talk about the night of your shoot. This is important. When you are, let's pretend you've seen a dress rehearsal, or maybe even if you haven't, this is the night of your shoot. I don't want you to end up saying, oh shit, I forgot something. Okay. Checklists are very important. Make a checklist of everything you need before you go so that you can say, yes, your bag has what it needs. You don't want to end up not having an extra battery, an extra flash card. Yeah, that sucks. Okay, so your night at the theater is going to look like this. All the techies are going to be out there. You guys already know this, with all their screens. And it's probably going to be the most stressful night for them because it's like their final dress. My motto is always happy to be here, easy to work with. Got that from Tom. When you go, here's my tips. Introduce yourself. Don't be shy, especially if you're going to a theater company where you don't know anybody and they've hired you. Go and introduce yourself to the director. Ask them about peak moments you should watch for. If you haven't, this is if you haven't been able to see the person. Introduce yourself to the light board operator. Ask them about darker or brighter moments that you can expect. Talk to the stage manager. Ask them, what your boundaries are for shooting. Can you go up on stage? Can you be in the wings? Can you stand in front of the tech crew that's got all their computers up? Ask them what your boundaries are so that you know. And also to have the stage manager tell the actors that, usually someone's told them like, oh, someone's shooting tonight, but it's better for actors not to be surprised and then the stage manager has told them. Big thing, always ask to have the front rows empty. Okay. You don't want any heads in your pictures. You want to have this is your night. So you want to be able to run around and you want to be sure that there's no heads in your pictures. If for some reason the marketing people are there or their PR person, ask them if they need anything specific. If your camera does video and you do a 30-second video, which is usually within licensing, you can get away with it. You'll become the marketing person's best friend, just so they can. That's if you're going someplace and you're trying to win clients. Okay. Then there's a thing called the setup shot. Okay. Before the run through and at the intermission, get an idea of what setup shots the director wants from you. Now, not all theater companies do this. They should, but not all of them do it. Find out if the director wants setup shots. Sometimes they're just going to refer to you, and or they may say, "Oh, I didn't even think about doing the setup shot." You can get back to them at intermission because as you're shooting the show, you're going to see what you can't get. If a scene is super dark, or if it's a dance number and they're moving so fast and you're like, oh man, I missed that moment. Then at intermission, go to the director or the stage manager and say, this is the setup shot I think we should do because I couldn't get it on camera. Don't be ashamed or afraid to say that because you're here to help them have the best shots they can get, and they're going to appreciate that. Now, a director may say to you, I want XYZ scenes set up. Well, you might have gotten that, and it's great. And then you can tell them, oh, I already got it. We don't need to set it up. So that saves them that time. So here's an example of a production shot from La Cage aux Folles to the left that was way too dark. I tried to pull it up in post. Ugh, everyone's skin went yellow. It was literally a black scene. So in the setup shots, here's what happens. And this is why you introduce yourself to the lighting operator. They will raise the lights for you. Now, they're not going to raise them to the point that it ruins the scene that the designer wanted. But they can lift them a smidge so that you can capture what you need to capture. And the director will usually set the actors up. It's a whole production, you know. So at Cabrillo Stage, where I did this for years, the way it usually works is you tell the director, you come to a consensus together. What are the 3 or 4? You usually don't have time for more than 3 or 4 setup shots that you want. And then you tell the director, either you did or you didn't get it on camera. Yes, let's do this setup shot. Then they tell the stage manager, who will then tell the actors, here's what costume you need to get into first so we can do the setup shots in order, because they want to get out of there. You do this right after final dress, and they still have to get notes. So you try to make your setup shots happen in 20 minutes, depending on how fast they change their outfit. Now, what's going to happen is the director is going to go down onto the stage and set the actors up. And you're going to be back in the house yelling in tandem with the director if you can see everyone's faces, if they're in the right light, et cetera, et cetera. And it just kind of goes like that. I went to shoot in the Heights the summer before, and nobody showed up for the setup shots. The director was not there. The artistic director was not there. A lighting op went on a break, and I'm standing there with the stage manager going, hello, what's happening? Because they wanted setup shots, just everyone decided to leave. I had nobody to help me, and the Crocker Theater is a big theater to be yelling onto the stage. So luckily the choreographer came in and saved the day. But they're not always that organized, but they should be. So I could do setup shots in your checklist to go thing that I'm giving you guys.
So you did the check-in about the setups at the intermission, and the setup takes place, at the end of the show or during the intermission?
No, so the setup shots take place right after the run through.
At the whole run through, yeah.
After the whole run through. Before notes.
That makes sense.
Before notes, but after the run through. But what I do is when I get to the theater, before the show starts, I'll go talk to the director. If I don't know them, I'll introduce myself. Hey, I'm your photographer tonight. Did you have setup shots that you wanted? Hear what the director has to say, and then say, I'll get back to you at intermission and tell you if I was able to get some of those shots in actual performance or not.
Okay.
And then you kind of chat with them again at intermission. By intermission, you should decide what you're shooting so that the stage manager is then prepared on the God mic to tell everybody, hey guys, you got to get into this costume first, this costume second, so that it's kind of running like a easy train. Otherwise it can be completely chaotic depending on how many people are in the show.
Yeah.
All right, that's that. All right, shooting with other photographers. How many of you have shot with another photographer on site at the same time?
Don't think so.
Have you always been the solo photographer, Davis?
I think so. I mean, I've kind of am still getting my reputation on here. I've done it for some of my own and done a few others, but yeah.
But when you're shooting, are you the only photographer there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it doesn't always work like that. So up at Shakespeare, for 6 years, there were 3 of us. Ron Jones and Shmuel Thaler, okay? We never understood why they wanted 3 of us at one show to shoot. Like, we didn't understand it, but we loved each other. So we saw each other once a year for all the shows, and it was fun, and we loved it. But we understood how to move around each other, okay? So it's always like that. So this has really been a pet peeve of mine for a long time, which is understanding photography etiquette if you are shooting with more than, if there's someone else there besides you, okay? Introduce yourself. Say hello, make a plan, who's going to shoot from where. Because you want to respect each other's space, and you both want to be able to get great photos. This goes a long way. I will tell you honestly, a lot of photographers are a little weird. And someone who I will remain nameless refuses to shoot with other photographers. This person is not working very much right now, but was very prominent for a while. Refuses to have anyone else in the theater with him. And I could never understand why. Until the night I shot Mary Poppins, and he was there. And I tried to say hello, and I tried to kind of say, hey, what side of the, it's a 500-seat theater, what side of the theater do you want to be on? And he laughed at me. At every corner that I moved to, he moved in front of me.
Oh.
And you can see right here, here's his big old fat head, purposely moved into my shot. And he did this for the entire first act. Everywhere I moved way over here, he moved over here. I moved way over here.
Wow.
And it was like a pissing contest. He was angry that I was there. And he wasn't mad at me. He didn't even know me. But I found out later from the managing director that he was pissed off that he had to shoot with another photographer there. So not all photographers are friendly. We had a great time up at Shakespeare, because we knew each other and we learned to work together. Not everyone's like that. And hopefully you will never have the experience that I had at Mary Poppins. But just introduce yourselves and make a plan. And hopefully that will relieve some of that tension. If you wind up shooting up at Shakespeare, Davis, they always have a lot of people there. It's never just one photographer.
I think I did notice because I was taping a thing and someone was still, or I talked to them recently. And I was like, oh yeah. So I found out they had multiple. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, they've always had multiple, and now they're actually not paying anybody. We're going to talk about.
I also heard that.
So wait, question. Question. So what is the purpose of them having multiple? Is it because they're going to be in different newspapers or different medium, or is it just that
We
they?
have never been able to figure it out. I mean,
Okay.
Chanel usually shoots for free because he's shooting for the Sentinel, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just very generous with his time, and he likes to be up at Shakespeare. Ron and I would always get paid, and they just like having different perspectives, I guess. Um, Sometimes Ron would be shooting another gig, and then there were times I was the only photographer there. I think they just like to have a stable in case, there was a time at Cabrillo Stage where I threw my back out and I couldn't shoot chorus line. So I brought Ron in to shoot, and I
Mm-hmm.
just sat in one seat and did close ups. And I let Ron run around and do all the stage on because I had thrown my back out. So, yeah, I don't know. Every company has their own reasons. Usually people only hire one. Um,
But do you give them all of your work that you shot, or do you just give them a selection of the best
we're
ones you
gonna
think?
talk. We're gonna talk about that.
Okay, okay,
We're gonna talk about
okay.
that. I just wanted to talk about photographer etiquette a little bit because
No, that was good.
important. Like here in the center shot, that's Shmuel shooting Red at Actors Theater. And I had come in to shoot the production. He had come in earlier just to shoot it for the paper. But I just happened to have the picture, so I threw it in. Okay, let's talk about post-production. Please, please, please adjust your pictures. I am shocked at how many photographers actually, and Ron Jones does this, just photo dumps all his pictures to the client. Here's what I shot. It doesn't do anything. And they're too dark. It doesn't take a lot to do post. And if you have the right post tools, like let's say you use Lightroom by Adobe to edit and color your pictures, you can do mass adjustments to all the pictures that you shot. It doesn't take that long. But I am shocked that people still deliver pictures that are too dark, too yellow. I mean, first of all, you need to know that a newspaper will not print a picture that's too dark because it lays down too much black ink.
Mm-hmm.
They won't publish it. We have a lot of digital papers now, and we have a lot of social media, so you can get away with a darker shot, but you're going to stand out from the crowd if you make just some simple adjustments to make your pictures right. Trust me, I cannot believe how many people don't do it. 3 easy steps: culling, exposure adjustment, and color adjustment, period. Boom, boom, boom. Culling means edit. Okay. Now, Davis will laugh because I just shot these, and he shot this show too.
Yep. Now, were
Adam's,
you shooting it for Lookout? Because you were the reviewer for Lookout too.
I was, yeah. Yeah.
So when you do a review, sometimes you bring your camera and are able to shoot some stuff for it too, huh?
No, you know what? It's a weird thing right now. It's a weird borderline to cross about being a reviewer and a photographer. The editor at Lookout really doesn't know a lot about theater, and I've had to tell her, like, it's not, I really shouldn't shoot a show before I review it. I said, but
Oh.
maybe I can go afterward, and so with Adam's family, she's like, go and get me some pictures. And I was like, okay, well, I've already seen it. So, okay, I'll go and take some pictures. But usually I wouldn't shoot a show before I review it because it's just, I think it's unethical, to be honest. Anyway,
Mm.
all right, so we're going to talk about editing a picture. Okay, editing, picking the best images. When you're doing your editing, think about what's the most powerful, what's the most evocative image that you took. Think about what will actually market the show to sell it. When you're editing, think about full stage shots, close-up shots, especially the leads. I get a lot of pictures as a reviewer that are not of the leads. And I don't get that because that's probably what I'm talking about in the review. So be sure you've got some close-ups of the leads, and you want to shoot both vertical and horizontal because they're used in different ways. Papers will always print a horizontal image. A vertical image is pretty much used on social. Okay, so tip number 17, you should pick your best images. Don't do a photo dump to the company of 150 pictures, some that are great and some that are so-so, because then they're going to pick and they're going to pick something that you may not like and your name's going to be on it. You pick your best images. I would tell you anywhere from 30 to 50 of the best images. The nameless headless photographer or head photographer that I mentioned in my photo etiquette slide, he only delivers 5 to 6 pictures. It drives the marketing departments crazy. It's like, why doesn't he have more pictures? Yeah, he, like I said, he's not working very much. Yes, pick your best images. So when you're editing, and this is just a screenshot of when I was editing through my Addams Family pictures, I just thought I'd share this as an example of what I would choose versus what I wouldn't choose. Again, personal choice. It's very subjective. But like up here, I don't know if you can see this well. On the upper left, the masked angel who's supposed to be the moon, her arm is in front of her face. So
Right.
that's over here on the second one, the moon is okay, but I didn't like what I caught of Uncle Fester. He just was awkward, right? This one was pretty good. Now over here, these two, this was interesting. This is the exact same shot, except what's happening is that Uncle Fester is so excited he's going to finally meet the moon and marry the moon that his hand is just about to grab hers. I know it's just very hard to see, but here his hand is just placed on top of hers and he's making a face like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Here, he's actually grabbed her hand. So I thought it was more impactful to see that he's almost about to get her hand. You know, it's just making those little choices. Same thing here. This was literally almost the same shot, just Fester's face changed a little bit. You know, if I had to choose between, oops, wrong shot. If I had to choose between center, far right, which is a close-up, versus the one on the left, the one on the right is the one that the paper will choose because for an editorial and a review, they want to see it more close up. You know, a big wide shot, like down here at the bottom of the umbrellas. I mean, it's an okay shot, but it doesn't say anything in the paper. I don't know that the one on the right really does either, but at least it's closer up.
Well, and the one on the right, at least you see some drama in the look, you know, her look, I think, you know, down in the lower right. So, like, there's a little, like you captured a look on her
There's
face.
still a lot of negative space there, though.
Yeah, and there is.
Probably
Yeah.
choose something that was closer together. This was just a screenshot I did. It's probably not the best example, but like over here with Gomez and Wednesday, the one where he has his hands up, obviously a much more interesting shot than the one over here where he's just turned his face to her. But again, just things to think about. Like this one here of Wednesday's pretty okay. Again, it's not the most dramatic. These aren't the greatest examples, but the point is you want to kind of think as you're editing, you know, what are they going to print in the paper? What are they going to put all over social media? It's not going to be a big group scene. It's going to be something a little more close up.
And then when you do that culling, do you save all the images then?
Oh, I do. Well, yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment. I save everything. I've saved everything for 35 years. Okay, so let's look at this shot from the 39 Steps at Shakespeare. Which image to you guys shows the most action or emotion?
Well, the one on the right.
But the one on the left is funny.
Yeah.
But maybe it isn't funny unless you saw the show. You know what I mean? Like, this was a hysterical show. It is
a really good show.
And Mike Ryan was a riot, you know, but yes, the one on the right is going to be the one that shows more emotion, probably a more action-oriented picture, even though I think that when I see the one on the left, it makes me giggle. But I think it makes me giggle because I was there. So you have to think, well, who wasn't there? What are they gonna like? Now this was actually shot on film 30 years ago. Can you believe that? This is Man of La Mancha, Cabrillo Stage, and you tell me which you think is a more dramatic image and why.
You know, the one on the left for me, I feel like I can see more emotion in his eyes because of the way, the angle of where he's looking. Um, and it's a different emotion on the one on the right when he's looking up. But I personally like the one on the left.
I think so too, although you can see both eyes on the one on the right, but I think there's something about the level he's looking that
Hmm.
allows me to connect with him a little bit more. Um, but the other one is more like, yeah, he's what, singing probably The Impossible Dream or something on the right. And I don't know, he looks a little more haunted on the left,
Yeah.
which
This is a tough one, but this is
it
an
is,
example of culling and trying to make those decisions.
yeah, it
Hmm.
is a toughie.
Um, because I often don't care for an actor's mouth to be wide open. But for me, I almost like the one on the right more because, this is Don Quixote. He's having his moments, his epiphany moments. And he's clutching his heart and he's like having this epiphany and he's looking up and his mouth is open. And to me, it's very dramatic, you
Yeah.
know. But then again, the left one isn't. So again, it's just an example of
It's
how
yeah,
you
it
choose.
gets down to stuff like that.
Hmm.
How do you
Micro.
I
choose?
would send them both.
All right, so let's talk about, okay, so we've got it down to our like top 50, 60 images, however many you want to deliver. Let's talk about the color adjustments. Okay, so actor theater lights. This was company. So on the upper right here, this is the original shot, straight out of camera. On the way right over here, it's too yellow and it's too magenta. So here's what I went through in Lightroom to adjust it. Okay. So the top one here, I countered the yellow by adding blue, but it's a little too blue. Here, I countered the magenta using green. It's too green. But when you combine them together, the blue and the green, your final image actually looks good. So again, the top one was countering only
Mm.
with blue. This was countering only with green, but doing both made it a nice, more natural looking skin tone. So there you have your straight out of camera there. A couple different adjustments in here. And you can see, so if you, well, this will get bigger in the next slide. So you use Lightroom, Davis?
I do.
Okay. Gail, you probably don't, but we'll talk more about that another time.
I've tried it, but I haven't really done much in it,
Oh,
and not
you
most
have Lightroom.
certainly. Well, I had it. I don't know if I still have it because I gave up part of my subscription because I wasn't using it.
Right.
I wasn't doing anything for a number of years. So,
Lightroom is a great way to catalog all your images, especially when you start shooting theater. I mean, like I'll shoot 800 shots a
hmm
night, and you don't want to have to look at those individually. In Lightroom, you can put them in, they'll catalog them, you can see them side by side, you can sort them a whole bunch of different ways. And
Okay.
then you can do all these color corrections that actually almost save you from having to go into Photoshop separately. Just depends on what your workflow is.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's that one. Here's another example of a color adjustment, and I opened up the Lightroom screen bigger here. Original shot on the top, just a little too pink. It's a little too pink. And so down here, I adjusted it by adding green because green, as you can see here on this bar, the tint of the image was too magenta. We counter that with green by just pulling the
Oh, okay.
just pulling the slider.
Hmm.
You can see here in the other image too, this is very small though, but up here is the tint. So here where I countered the yellow with blue, I just pulled the slider from yellow to blue. Just in Lightroom, you just play with the sliders. Yeah, so this one just took out a little bit of magenta. Still wanted to keep the look and feel of it. Just needed those skin tones to go a little more green. Gave it a more natural look. Now, when you're adjusting your exposure, sometimes you'll have a shot that's really dark. Like over here, this is from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Um, it was too dark. Yeah, there's a little shadow detail in his cape, but I couldn't really see it. And I just thought, oh, is this a throwaway image? It may not be a throwaway image. Go into your adjustments. I usually always pump up the exposure. This was the actual panel from Lightroom. I always open up the shadows and I always open up the blacks. That is the biggest and most easiest trick you can do. You do it once on a picture and then you sync those settings for all your pictures in Lightroom. They'll adjust all of them at once, which is fantastic. But this is pretty much what I do is I will raise the shadows and the blacks. I don't touch because I usually am shooting for the highlights. And sometimes if you shoot a little darker, it's okay because you can open up the shadows. If you shoot for the shadows and the highlights blow out, it's almost impossible to recover those, as I said before. So this is pretty much how I adjust all of my theater shots is I will open the shadows, I will open up the blacks, give it a little pump, maybe if it needs half an exposure, a whole exposure. I'm sorry, half a stop, a whole stop in the exposure panel. And then sometimes I'll add a little clarity. Some people like to add contrast. I prefer to just add a little clarity because it makes it a little sharper.
So is clarity the equivalent of sharpen? Or what is is that a new, I haven't heard of clarity before.
Clarity, vibrance, and saturation kind of work together. This is if you wanted to pump up the color, but what
Mhm.
happens if you pump up the saturation, it'll change the skin tones. So you don't want to do it too much. Vibrance is just the brightness, sort of the brightness of the picture, the vibrance of the colors.
Mm-hmm.
Clarity is just kind of, it's sort of sharpening, but not really. It's kind of dialing in the clarity of the pixels to make them just a little cleaner. There is a whole other panel for sharpening
Okay.
if you need it, but I think that's the best explanation I have. Do you have a better explanation for clarity, Davis?
I don't think I do. I have been using Lightroom CC, which I don't know if they use the term clarity now. I know they have sharpen and all these others. I'd have to look and see because I don't
No, they
remember.
still have clarity. They still have clarity because I
They
use,
do? Okay. I
yeah,
haven't noticed what panel that one's on. So I have not messed with clarity, I guess, then. I've used all these others.
it's in the same panel. This is yes, what you're seeing is an older version of Lightroom, but I have a newer version on my other computer, and it's right under. This is the
Oh,
basic.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the basic exposure panel, and it's grouped with vibrance and saturation.
Well, I'll have to mess around with that one because you know what? I never noticed that.
Yeah, you just give it a little tap, and it'll make things a little sharper. It kind of dials in those pixels a little bit, which is
Well,
nice. Just
there
a
we
little,
go.
you
I've
can see.
learned another little tip.
I don't do much. I only do like
Yeah.
13. So,
Yeah, if you do too much on some of those kind of tools, I know then you start to get a little weird looking if you go crazy on them.
well, and especially on denoise. Oh.
Yes, yeah, the noise is dangerous if you go nuts with it.
So here's just another example of exposure and color adjustments. The original is here on the right, too pink, too dark. Look how we can barely see these people back here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can lift that literally by just lifting your shadows. Oh, which I guess I didn't do here. Ha ha. I guess that's funny. Okay, well, usually you would lift that by lifting your shadows. I may have put the wrong panel here. But again, just pumping the exposure a little bit to get your whites where you want them. If for some reason you pump up your exposure, but then what was the brightest part of your picture gets too bright, I bring down the highlights just a little bit. Um, I can explain this to you, Gail, once you have Lightroom open, since it's kind of a new software for you. Um, I can help you more with that at another time. But
Okay.
here I actually brought the saturation down a little bit because it was too saturated. Sometimes that
Mhm.
to do a little color adjustment without having to go crazy with, adding yellow, adding green. You can just take down that saturation just a tad, and it got rid of all that magenta.
And so you were saying that you put some settings in and you save them and it applies to all of the things that you've shot. And
Yeah.
you do that because you shot at a certain everything. Like you shot
So
at,
a lot of times I do it by bunches of scenes. Like
Okay.
if the whole, first or second scenes were under the same light, then
Hmm.
I'll do one adjustment and I'll adjust all of those images to be.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then if the next scene was super bright, well, then it's going to need a different adjustment.
Okay. That makes
Not
sense.
a show is not the same lighting all the way through, as we all know. Don't forget to kind of, crop and rotate. Crop and rotate is good. I tend to shoot very crooked. I am a crooked photographer. And so, and a lot of times, like here's the original shot up here. Here's this down here. A lot of times you don't need all that junk in the background either. Like here, I kind of cropped it in so
Hmm.
that it was just more focused on the folks in the picture. Although the background was very cool for Hunchback, you just didn't really need it there. Um, and this one again, too, very simple adjustment. I literally just opened up the blacks a teeny bit and added a little bit of green to counter that magenta right here. And it made it a much cleaner image. And it's interesting how opening up the blacks really made these guys in the back look how beautiful that blue is on
Yeah.
just by opening up those blacks a little bit. So sometimes, when you're shooting, if a picture looks dark, you can, it's probably going to look great when you look at it in post. And just always shoot for those highlights. Because if I had blown his face out, I wouldn't have been able to save it. But these guys being in the dark, I could just lift the blacks and it'll come out beautiful. Now here's one where I think I went a little too far. So on the upper right was the original, and it's pretty.
Hmm.
It felt a little, I don't know, felt a little too warm. So I countered the yellow with a little blue and green down here, but I think it's too green. I don't think this one works. So this is an example of kind of going a little too far, with a certain color. This is probably better off the way it was. Don't you think this one looks too green down here?
I just feel like it's not as, yeah, I guess green would be the thing, but I just feel like the original seems more balanced color wise to me.
Like the warmth of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't feel like it's too warm or too cool for me. So,
All right, little real quick here, photo formats. If your camera allows for video, like I said before, take a short clip. You can do 30 seconds if it doesn't cross the licensing lines. Marketing people will love you. You can go, hey, I got a cute little clip of this song or this scene. They'll probably love you. We'll hire you again. Horizontal. Again, the most common format. The presses will rarely print a vertical image for a story. That's the printed press. Now that we're dealing with a lot of online presses, they probably will, but they always want a horizontal to go right above that headline, and a vertical won't work. Vertical will
mhm.
not work on top of a headline. So this is why shooting horizontal is good. Now you can also think vertical for all the social stuff because here's my lookout review, right? Okay, so this was a horizontal, which they then cropped to be vertical for their social. But on Instagram, on TikTok, that all of the theater companies have, everything's vertical. So this is why it's good to shoot both. All right, so I'm going to share a little stuff with you here. What actually sells a show? And again, think about this when you're shooting, think about this when you're editing, think about the emotional, poignant, exciting moments that they will put in the press, that they will put on social media. Okay, so reviewers, like I said before, we don't want big, well, I shouldn't say reviewers, but presses in general. They don't want the big, long, horizontal group shot because it's not highlighting action. They want something that's really the leads. You know, here, this shot of Hamilton, it shows you the excitement, the energy of it. It's highlighting the lead. And even though there's people, it's still not that big, wide, horizontal shot. Because remember, regardless of whether a review is good or bad, this is a theater company's opportunity to sell a show, regardless of what the review is. If the picture is beautiful, someone may go, oh my gosh, I want to see that. So because of that, I want to talk to you just a little bit about what actually hijacks a show's success, okay? Audiences often will wait to buy tickets to read a review, and so this is why, whether the review is good or bad, choose beautiful images to go in the paper. And again, you're not going to make that choice. The company is. This is why I tell you, you choose what you send them. You send them the best pictures, so they don't even have the opportunity to send a bad picture to the paper.
Oh, wait, I have to step away. Sorry. My daughter just got home. So
I'm going to share with you some pictures that I actually received as a reviewer.
Okay.
I want us to look at them together. So on the top row, and this is not about coming down on the photographers at all. I am not dissing anybody. I just want us to look at what is the most impactful when it comes to actually representing a show in the press. So on the top here, we have some shots from Spring Awakening. And again, you walked away, Gail. This is not about coming down on photographers. This is about looking at what actually will sell a show and why. So in the top row were 3 images I was sent from my review of Spring Awakening. And I want you to tell me if you think, A, do these pictures interest you? Would you want to see this show? Does it say anything about the show? And the same thing down below for Sweeney Todd.
Well,
That's the big question.
yeah.
Is it an interesting photograph? Will it sell the show? I'm sorry. Will it make you want to see the show? Davis, what do you think?
Well, on the bottom, the one in the middle is probably, I guess, like a thing I would expect to see. I know the show, so there's Sweeney and Mrs. Lovett, and there's the pie shop. It's a middle center shot, so it's not the most dynamic, but it shows the leads there. So, I mean, there's that. The top one I'm finding tougher, because I think the most dynamic one is the one on the top left,
Yeah.
but I can't see the faces on the people turning away. It's got the most action. The others are pretty still, and it doesn't really, and neither of those other ones quite make me want to go out and see it. But I like that it's got a counter, kind of an edge, but I almost like wonder if it could, I almost wish I could see some of the others or something. I don't know.
Okay, so Spring Awakening. The one on the left, it's too dark.
Yeah.
And it's too far away. So
Yeah.
so there's some action there. I can't see him.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure the picture's not going to be much bigger than that in the paper, right? So it's like I can't see him. This will also help you decide how you edit too. So it's like, I can't see him. The guy in the front on the chair, it's like, oh, he's got his feet up and his head back. Like, what's going on? It's like, no.
Yeah.
Center picture. Okay, I don't know what these characters are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what show this is.
Yeah.
What is this telling me? They all
Not
look
much.
bored and they're
Yeah.
sitting there, right? Okay, tells me nothing. The one on the right, well, it's the two leads, thank God. But again, there's no energy in this
Yeah.
picture.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that tells me like why it looks like they were caught in between rehearsal. Like, yeah. So this is an
Not
example
really.
of what doesn't sell a show. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Down here with Sweeney Todd, don't even get me started. This picture over here on the left is an absolute travesty. Okay. And it is a travesty because this person did not bother to edit this picture at all. This picture, if this picture had been cropped so that it was just Sweeney, maybe cropped as a horizontal like this, great. But look at all this extra garbage we have in the back.
Yeah.
And it's a set that doesn't even look like it's finished. Like,
Mm-hmm.
horrible. But if you were to see this picture closer up, Sweeney's eyes are closed and his mouth is open. And even though he's holding a switchblade, I can't see it.
That's a big
It's
problem.
dark.
Oh, I didn't even notice that until you
Yeah.
said it. Now I
It's
just.
in darkness. So again, it just looks like a guy going like this. Am I supposed to know what show this is? No, no,
Yeah.
no. Okay. Center picture. You were right on the money, Davis. Yes, it's the two leads. Again, this photographer should have cropped this image because there's too much junk going on. Crop it to just be here, or crop it vertical so that it's closer in, it's tighter. That one would have been okay. The one here on the right, this is a minor character in the show,
Yeah.
surrounded by blacks. I don't
It's a
know
lot of
what-
black.
Yeah, I don't know what show this is. I don't know why we're seeing the beggar woman. It's like, I
That's
actually
really
called
dark.
Cabrillo Stage. I'm like, can you send me other pictures? Like, do you have any other pictures of Sweeney? Oh, we had a student photographer and she only sent us about 10 pictures. I'm like, well, is there anything else of Sweeney? So they send me a picture of Sweeney where he's holding a switchblade in front of his face and his eyes are crossed looking at it. I'm like, I can publish that. Disappointment. Okay, now on the top row is pictures from Master Harold, who had a good photographer. But you tell me if these look like the most interesting shots from this show.
No. No, I don't think so.
I think the one on the left has the most, like to me, that's probably the most interesting of the ones for Master Harold. I saw the show, and that one seems the most interesting to me because you see that there's a dynamic that exists between the two characters a little
I
closer.
agree. But what's wrong with the picture?
There's a lot. I think it could have been cropped. There's a lot of darkness in the back, or it's blue. I don't know.
Well,
Keep
there's a
going,
lot.
keep going.
Yeah.
Look at Harold.
Oh, and pardon?
Look at Harold. I mean,
Oh, Harold's mouth is open.
look at Corey Jones. His face is too dark. He's in shadow.
Very dark. Yeah.
Oh,
His
okay.
Yeah, you can
face
see the
is
top
in-
of his head kind of starts to blur. We lose separation. He kind of disappears into that shadow behind it.
Yeah, in that black shadow.
So,
Okay.
if you were this photographer and submitted this picture, you should have edited to make his face a little brighter,
Mm-hmm.
a little more contrasty so that he stood out from the background. Davis was right. Because this is the only shot of the four of them where we actually are seeing some interaction between the actors and there's some drama. Harold is
Mhm.
laughing and Corey Jones is, telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
That one would have worked if they had taken the time to do post production, to brighten it a little bit. Even Master Harold here should have a brighter face. Don't submit pictures thinking the paper's going to fix them. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to fix your pictures for you. You have to adjust them before you submit them to the company. This one tells me nothing. This one really tells me nothing, number 3. And again, this one on the fourth one, it's like, wow, okay, so they're making faces looking at him. It just doesn't tell you what this show is about or any kind of dynamic. Very disappointed in that. And my last one here, Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night. Yeah, I don't think I even need any words here.
Those are rough. Yeah, there's a lot of blackness and nothing is really. Oh, also, someone's on. Well, is someone on book? Is that like at a rehearsal?
Oh no, that's
No,
actually the
no, she's
show.
reading.
She
Okay,
Yeah,
I
actually
missed
reads
that
from it.
show,
Yeah,
so
she read. I saw that one. She reads from that. That
okay,
it's a prop, like she's reading from it.
yeah.
okay,
So
but yeah, it doesn't.
it's
Yeah,
horrible. Unfortunately, the lead actor who plays uh,
the
the,
kid.
the
It's
Yeah,
kid, the
Wyatt.
cast
Yeah,
member,
Wyatt
you
Troxel.
know, the photographer had done no shots of him close up. And
Really?
he was the best thing in the show. He was what I
Yes.
highlighted in the review, and they had no
Oh,
pictures of him.
oh
that's weird.
no.
No pictures of him except for like this, which
Because he was
he was
really
good.
good.
Well, the
You
whole show flows through that character too.
Yeah.
So it
exactly.
needs to be
Oh,
highlighted. Uh,
So again, this was a choice. This photographer, who I don't think was very experienced, just didn't know to think to do that.
mhm.
Take that shot of the lead, whether it's vertical, horizontal. This one would have been interesting artistically, but it was blown out and it was vertical, so I couldn't put it in my review. This picture, second one here, says nothing. This says absolutely nothing. Yeah. So
So
what?
the blown out one on the right, the lower right, like what? I mean, what did they do? Because it just, I can see where they were trying to make it sort of artsy, or like they thought it was artsy, maybe. But what would you have done to fix that one other than shoot it different?
Well, there's the big one right there, Gail. I think well, his face is all yellow and it's blown out.
Mm.
I don't know if I could have fixed it.
Okay, okay, and that was my question: is
But then again,
could you say?
this one here, this third one,
Mm-hmm.
and if you opened up the shadows, opened up the shadows and the blacks, it
Mm-hmm.
would have been better. But I still don't see the actor's face.
Right.
Don't really see the interaction of the other actors with him. He just looks isolated, which would be okay, but I need to see his eyes for a press picture, just again, the idea of selling a show. You want to
Mm-hmm.
see those actors. Yeah. All right. So what does sell a show? So let's look at some pictures that actually really work. And yes, these are from Broadway shows. Love Joan Marcus, but not related to me. But again, the idea that you're highlighting your leads here, you're showing the magic of the set, you're highlighting your leads. Here, you're just showing emotion. And even though there's more actors, it's emotion. And here, it's close up emotion. Here, down here,
Entertaining, yeah.
with Stomp, we have action. That's for the show Stomp, that's what's going to
Mm-hmm.
set that show. It's, heavy dance, movement, action, excitement, or even, yeah, any of these. Focusing on the leads, interesting composition, well exposed, but again, compact and focused on
Mm-hmm.
the actors and whatever is the most impactful moment that will make someone want to come see it. Up
Mm-hmm.
here with Hadestown,
Yeah.
it looks emotional and interesting. This beautiful set, okay, they can all dance. And you know what? This was probably a setup shot, not a production shot. But
Mm.
then again, it might have been a production shot of Chicago because they kind of stand there and pose for a while. So might have been. But again, the difference between something like this and something like this is what sells a show. Give them the leads, make it a good exposure, get a little action, get a little drama. That's all you need. I always say, is the quality of a publicity image representative of the quality of the production?
Mm.
The answer is not yes or no. It's
Right.
someplace in between. And as an example, I want us to look at 4 different productions of cabaret. Okay. I had a lot of fun researching this. All right. So I don't even know who all these theater companies are, but we all know cabaret. It's an iconic show. So to sell it in a PR picture or to capture it during production, you kind of know what those iconic moments are going to be. Okay. So if we look at this picture here on the left, I'm sorry, that chick just looks angry. Would you want to go see
Yeah.
a show where she looks that angry and kind of like, why would they use that as their PR picture or in the press? I don't know. To me, it looked really angry. This shot here, MCCC theater and dance students. Tell
It's,
me why that picture doesn't work.
well,
Everything's chopped up.
well, and she doesn't, I mean, it's like she doesn't even look like that's a really like cool dance move. Like it looks like she's falling actually to me.
It was like an
Um,
accident, right?
yeah, it
Yeah.
looks like she's falling and they're not holding her up and she's trying to sing. It's not that interesting of an image to me. I mean,
No.
at all.
Well, it screams amateur.
Hmm.
It screams amateur, bad student show. Now, it can be a bad show, but you can take a beautiful photograph of it and sell that show. I sold out a show before it opened by the imagery alone to a show that was so horrible. It's a Wonderful Life at Cabrillo in like 2014 or 15. It was an original production.
I know of this show.
I
Yeah, it
didn't
was
see
an
it.
original production. The show was so horrible. It needed to be workshopped. It hadn't been. I didn't know a thing about it. I just knew I had to do the PR pictures and I had to market the show.
Hmm.
And I came up with a brilliant campaign and we literally sold out that show before it opened. I still can't believe it because when I actually saw the show, I was like, oh my God, I guess I can market a show that's bad. And so, again, it's not about whether the show is good or bad. Your picture is going to make the difference about whether someone will come and see a show. I would never see this show at the top. It's like, that's cabaret now. Now, this one down here, they got some action,
Hmm.
but it's the wrong action. How the hell is that picture selling the show cabaret? Over here, the guy who's the most correctly exposed is wearing a sailor outfit. This guy's holding a briefcase over his head. I don't even
Oh,
know.
is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. And this guy's in the front with his hands up. Like, what does this mean? What does this mean? I don't understand.
Well, this looks like it might have been a posed shot, just because of,
And even so, why did they choose that
yeah,
pose?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so weird. This does not sell the show, and it does not say cabaret. All right, over here, this is the West End production from this year, shot by a brilliant photographer, whose stuff I had put on my Facebook page. Um, it's a different kind of cabaret, different costumes, different aesthetic, but he produced images that are mysterious, interesting, emotionally evocative. They're pretty beautiful. What do you guys think?
Well, I actually really the one center of the two looking at each other and that kind of face-off thing
Mhm.
is that really is intriguing to me. Um, I think the one on the lower right, on the right, just has more action even in the background, which is interesting too, I think.
But I think
Um,
that kind of shows you it's an energetic show.
yeah, like it just it's like it captured this movement in that instant. And so that definitely is more intriguing to me.
The reason I'm showing you guys these is because I want you to just start to think about what you're seeing
Hmm.
and how your pictures will be seen based on how you choose to edit them, how you choose to photograph them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one where the woman look every time I look at that one where the
Her
gal looks
leg
like
is up
she's
like that.
falling off. Yeah, like it just looks like she's falling and trying to keep singing. I don't know. Yeah,
Pretty funny.
yeah. But
Now,
interesting.
again, PR photography is often a whole other animal than actually shooting a production,
Right.
Hmm.
but they often will sell out a show. And so if you work for a theater company who asks you to do a publicity campaign for them, um, this is a really fun opportunity to be creative, to do something cool that you usually do in conjunction with the marketing department. And it can sell out a show. I sold out Into the Woods with this campaign before it opened. And I can't even tell you how many people wrote letters to Cabrillo Stage saying, I really wasn't interested in seeing Into the Woods again until I saw the publicity pictures.
Hmm.
And I do consider myself the great appropriator. I appropriate everything. There is nothing wrong with that because when you appropriate, you wind up making something new and original. I base this on the Disney movie, and their PR campaign, and then took all the actors out into the woods and photographed them. And yeah, and then even the rent, again, this was the traditional rent uh, collage that goes with that
Hmm.
show, but recreated it with the actual cast of the Cabrillo Stage production, and had a lot of fun. And this kind of imagery in the PR realm will sell a show. Um, just making it look professional. Lyle Cruz, who started Cabrillo Stage, once said to me, and I quote him, "You can put any shit on stage as long as you have brilliant marketing." And he's absolutely right.
Well, and I think with the rent, anyone familiar with rent recognizes this layout because it is the the familiar layout of it and stuff. I think the thing with Into the Woods is you get to see each of the characters in the way you have it laid out, and it's interesting. I find it interesting to see because I want to look at closer and see who they are. And I did see it. I did see this show. So good info. Really good info.
Things to look at. All right, so go and make great photos.